Your pipes might be freezing right now and you may not even know it. 50 million Americans woke up this Wednesday morning inside a freeze warning zone, and that includes cities that haven't seen this kind of cold in mid-March in a very long time. That same storm system that just blew through also produced 21 confirmed tornadoes over the last 48 hours, which technically makes this an official tornado outbreak, and the NWS damage survey teams are still out there confirming reports as we speak. And 1,400 miles to the west, Phoenix hit 102 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. The first time in recorded history that city has touched 100 degrees this early in March. So yeah, we are absolutely living in two completely different countries right now. The story this morning is the aftermath. 180,000 homes still dark in Michigan and Wisconsin right now. Temperatures sitting below 10 degrees Fahrenheit out there, and a whole new round of winter weather already loading up for tonight. We've got a lot of ground to cover. The freeze hammering the south, a clipper diving in tonight, the heat wave baking the west, and most importantly, a late March storm window you need to have on your radar right now. Stick with me. Around the 5-minute mark, I'm going to give you the exact date window for when the next significant severe weather threat returns, because both models are starting to agree on something for late March that absolutely deserves your attention. And hang through to the end for the heat wave breakdown, because what's coming for the Great Plains by Friday and Saturday could shatter daily records by 10 degrees or more, and that ripple effect touches a lot more than just your weekend plans. I want to be up front with you before we dive in. I've been tracking severe weather long enough to know that when a system checks as many boxes as this one did, the instinct is to go big. And I think the forecast community, myself included, needs to be straight about where this one delivered and where it fell short. The blizzard side was flat out historic and verified almost exactly as called, but the severe weather yesterday underperformed, mainly because early morning convection burned through the atmospheric fuel before the main show could organize, and that's a real forecast lesson worth owning. So before we get into what's next, if this storm hit your area, go ahead and drop your city and your story in the comments right now. How much snow did you get? Did the severe weather come through your neighborhood, or are you still waiting for the lights to come back on? All right, Wednesday morning, March 18th, cleanup very much still underway, and the next piece of this pattern is already on the doorstep. So let's start where things hurt the most right now. Let's start with the freeze, because 50 million people is not a small number, and a whole lot of those folks are in parts of the country that simply don't think of themselves as places that have to deal with this kind of cold in the middle of March. Nashville at 46 degrees Fahrenheit today, but dropping to 25 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. Charlotte at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, dropping to 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Atlanta at 52 degrees Fahrenheit, dropping to 26 degrees Fahrenheit. Those overnight lows are hard freeze territory, and anything that survived yesterday's storm is going to face round 2 tonight. Here's the part that's genuinely keeping farmers up in Georgia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas right now. Peach orchards and apple orchards that are already in full bloom simply are not built to handle a 26 degree Fahrenheit night. And once a blossom freezes, there's no coming back from that. And here's what makes this morning's commute so gnarly across Virginia and Pennsylvania. All that rain from yesterday soaked into road surfaces that dropped below freezing overnight. And black ice on a highway that looks bone dry is honestly one of the sneakiest and most dangerous things a driver can run into. Richmond at 47 degrees Fahrenheit, Philadelphia at 46 degrees Fahrenheit, D.C. at 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Those sound decent, but bridge decks and overpasses froze hours ago and are not warming up fast enough for the morning rush. So if you're heading out right now, please slow it down. What makes this pattern genuinely jaw-dropping is how far south that freeze line pushed. We're talking freeze warnings that reached all the way to New Orleans, to Mobile, Alabama, and into parts of northern Florida, cities that are normally done worrying about frost before the end of February. And just to drive home how wild the last 48 hours have been, Huntsville, Alabama measured over an inch of snow. Birmingham and Tuscaloosa had snowflakes flying. Atlanta saw flurries. All of that in the third week of March is straight up one for the record books. Up north, the cleanup from Winter Storm Iona is going to take days, and I don't want these communities to get lost in the bigger story, because 180,000 households without power at temperatures below 10 degrees Fahrenheit is a genuine emergency. Full stop. Minneapolis is at 15 degrees Fahrenheit with an overnight low of -5 degrees Fahrenheit. Schools are closed for the third straight day, and there are reports coming in of residential roof collapses in Minnesota from the sheer weight of snow sitting over 3 feet deep on those structures. Detroit at 28 degrees Fahrenheit, Milwaukee at 24 degrees Fahrenheit, Grand Rapids at 28 degrees Fahrenheit. These are the communities that need power crews running around the clock right now, and the cold simply isn't letting up fast enough to make that job anything but brutal. Midwest folks, Great Lakes crew, if you're still without power this morning, drop your city and your snow total in the comments and tell me what's going on at street level. How are you staying warm? And if you got close to 40 inches, let me know, because those forecasts from 5 days ago are looking like they actually held up. Here's something that's easy to miss when you're still shoveling from the last storm. A new Alberta clipper is diving in tonight. And while it's nowhere near what we just went through, it does bring another round of accumulating snow to a region that doesn't need any more. This clipper is actually trending a bit more aggressive than its initial forecast. Light to moderate snow is expected across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and into Illinois tonight through early tomorrow morning, with a couple of inches possible in many spots. The part that might catch you flat-footed is how far south this thing can push. There's a real shot at snow showers reaching Kentucky and Tennessee by tomorrow morning, and the high-res model is showing at least some flurries getting down into northern Alabama again. Indianapolis and Chicago are looking at 1/2 inch to 1 inch on top of everything that's already out there. Not a big deal by itself, but piled on top of an existing foot or more, with temps staying below freezing, it just keeps the roads messy and the whole situation dragging on. Hang with me here. Coming up, we're getting into the late March storm window that both models are flagging, and I'll walk you through this heat wave that is going to feel absolutely surreal sitting next to everything the East is dealing with right now. All right, let's swing completely to the other side of the map, because while the East is buried and frozen, the West has straight up skipped spring and landed somewhere in late May. Phoenix hit 102 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. And I want to say that again because it genuinely deserves a second. 102 degrees in March. The first time Phoenix has ever touched that number this early in the calendar year in recorded history. Here's the number that's genuinely hard to get your head around. Minneapolis is waking up at -5 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, while Phoenix hit 102 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. That's a 107-degree gap between two American cities in the same country on the same week in March, and there is no modern comparison for that. Los Angeles is at 94 degrees Fahrenheit today, with Santa Ana winds hitting 50 miles per hour and humidity falling below 10%. And that combo of record heat, bone-dry air, and offshore winds blowing hard is about as dangerous a fire weather setup as you can put together. Red flag warnings are up for Los Angeles and Ventura County. And with conditions like these, it only takes one spark in the wrong spot at the wrong time. So if you're in Southern California today, this is not the day to be burning anything outdoors, not even a pile of brush. West Coast folks, Arizona, Nevada, come on down to the comments. Drop your city and your temperature, because I've got viewers in Minneapolis without power at -5 degrees right now who need to feel that contrast laid out in plain numbers. Here's the plain English version of why all of this is happening at once. A massive ridge of high pressure is locked over the West like a wall, simultaneously baking that half of the country with record heat and blocking storm systems from crossing the Rockies into the central U.S. Think of that ridge like a bouncer at the door. Any storm energy trying to come out of the Pacific gets turned away at the velvet rope, which is why severe weather goes quiet for the next several days, and the only things sneaking through are small Alberta clippers dropping down from Canada. Bottom line for you personally, If you're east of the Rockies right now, the next several days are cold and quiet. No severe weather, no major snow events, just the cleanup, the freeze, and a warm-up by the weekend that is going to feel like a genuine reward after everything this week has thrown at us. Quick run through conditions so you know where things stand. Chicago at 26 degrees Fahrenheit. Milwaukee at 24 degrees Fahrenheit. Both dealing with snow-covered streets, brutal wind chills, and a heating bill that's been climbing all week for people who are lucky enough to still have power. And here's the thing about Chicago and Milwaukee that matters most for tomorrow morning. The roads that got plowed and treated are going to refreeze hard tonight under this cold air. And that clipper dropping another inch on top of the refreeze is going to make the Tuesday commute genuinely ugly. Plan for it. New York at 44 degrees Fahrenheit. Boston at 40 degrees Fahrenheit. DC at 48 degrees Fahrenheit. The Northeast is cold and blustery all day. Freeze warnings in effect. And the wind chill is going to make those temperatures feel a solid 10 to 15 degrees colder than the thermometer suggests. Down south, Atlanta is at a decent 52 degrees Fahrenheit right now. But that low of 26 degrees Fahrenheit tonight is the number that should have every farmer and gardener in North Georgia on high alert. Nashville at 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Charlotte at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The whole southeast corridor is running the same dangerous pattern. Perfectly fine afternoon, hard freeze overnight. Now here's the thing I genuinely want you to feel good about, and I mean this. The warm-up that rolls in Thursday into Friday is going to feel like somebody just flipped a switch after the week we've all been through. For you personally, if you're in the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, or the Southeast, temperatures are jumping back to near normal or above by Friday and Saturday. And after this cold snap, that is going to feel absolutely magnificent. The Great Plains are going to be particularly wild by Friday and Saturday. Kansas City is looking at the low to mid-80s, which is the kind of reading you normally see in late May. And we are talking about the third week of March here. And out west, the heat wave is on track to produce nearly 100 record-breaking daily high temperatures on Friday alone. That is not a typo. 100 records broken in a single day. Before that warmth starts spreading east into the plains through the weekend. All right, quick question for you. What are you planning to do when that warm-up finally shows up in your city this weekend? Drop it in the comments below, because after a week of blizzards and hard freezes, I have a strong feeling a lot of people are just going to walk outside and stand in the sun for a good long minute. All right, I promised you this at the very start of this video, so here it is. The late March storm window that both the European model and the GFS are now independently flagging. And this is honestly the part I'd want you to lock in on. The March 25th to 27th window is the one I'm watching most closely right now. Both models are hinting at a large storm system developing by the middle of next week, and the large-scale atmospheric setup supports it in a way that's getting more consistent with every run. What that means for you personally is this. The quiet stretch we're stepping into right now is not the end of the story. It's a pause. And the same pattern that gave us the historic blizzard and the tornado outbreak is setting up for at least one more significant act before March closes out. This next system could bring heavy rain, severe weather, and depending on where you're located, potentially more late season snow. And confidence is building specifically for that March 25th to 27th window, with Sunday into Monday of next week as the key setup date. I'm not putting hard specifics on it yet because 8 days out things change, and honestly that's the lesson this whole week has been teaching us. But the signal is real, it's consistent, and it's worth having in your back pocket. I'll be straight about something while we're here. The severe weather from this system underperformed relative to the forecast, and it's a fair question whether events like this get overcalled by the weather community, myself included. For what it's worth, the Storm Prediction Center's 5-day outlook right now shows zero risk of severe weather from today through Saturday. No shading, no watch areas, nothing. And after the week we just had, that is as clean a forecast as you're going to see. And I'll say this from my corner. I'd rather explain why a storm wasn't as bad as we warned then explain why we didn't warn enough. Because when these events do verify, the stakes are people's lives. And that's not a calculation I'm willing to get wrong on the low side. So here's your clear sky window. 5 straight days with 0 severe weather risk, which after what this past week delivered is a genuine gift. Take a breath, get the cleanup done, and check on the folks around you who are still dealing with outages. But, and this is the part I don't want you to file away and forget, the quiet ends. And it ends with a potentially significant system around March 25th to 27th. So enjoy the breather and use it to get ready, not to check out. Northeast friends, New York, Boston, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, I want to be real with you. You're the one region that hangs on to below average temperatures the longest every single spring. And the 8 to 14 day outlook has you staying chilly through early April. Boston at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, Albany at 38 degrees Fahrenheit, Buffalo at 30 degrees Fahrenheit, Lake effect is still firing off Erie and Ontario, and Buffalo and Syracuse are looking at more snow squalls and lake-enhanced bands throughout the week. Which honestly is par for the course up there this time of year. There's a passing system this Saturday or Sunday that could bring some light snow or a wintry mix to the northeast. Nothing to write home about, but enough to keep winter feeling very real up there before the warm-up finally makes it up to you heading into next week. And we cannot leave Hawaii out of this. The Kona low sitting on top of those islands is still grinding away, and the situation there is genuinely serious. 10 inches of rain fell in 24 hours in parts of Oahu. Landslides have been reported, and the state is now looking at requesting FEMA assistance. Honolulu at 78 degrees Fahrenheit with flash flood warnings still active. Hilo getting absolutely pounded at 74 degrees Fahrenheit. If you've got family or old friends out on the islands, shoot them a quick text today because this is not just garden variety Hawaiian rain, and the emergency warnings are still very much in effect. I have to take a second and just say this out loud. Right now, somewhere in the comments, there's somebody in Minneapolis without power at -5. Somebody in Phoenix sweating at 102. And somebody in Hawaii watching their street turn into a river. Same March, same country, same Wednesday morning. Tell me which one you are. City, current temperature, and what the view looks like outside your window right now. Because today the comments on this video might genuinely be the most accurate coast-to-coast weather snapshot in the whole country. Before I let you go, let me give you the quick, practical rundown, because some of this is genuinely time sensitive depending on where you're waking up today. Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. Tonight's freeze is the real deal, so get the outdoor plants inside, wrap the exposed pipes, and take the black ice seriously tomorrow morning, especially on bridges and overpasses where the ice forms first and thaws last. Midwest and Great Lakes. If you still don't have power, call your utility company. Make sure local emergency services know you're out there, and especially check on any elderly folks in your household or neighborhood. Hypothermia risk at these temperatures is not something to brush off. Southern California and Arizona, red flag conditions are not a drill today. The Santa Ana winds are cranking, humidity is below 10%, and any fire that sparks in that kind of heat and dryness can move faster than people expect. Take those warnings at face value. Hawaii. Stay out of low-lying flood-prone areas. Steer clear of any recent landslide zones, and if a flash flood warning hits your phone tonight, move to higher ground immediately. This is not normal tropical rain, and the emergency services out there are stretched right now. Last call on comments, and I mean it every time I say that. Where are you? What are you dealing with right now? And if this storm rolled through your area, what's your story from the ground? Whether you're still shoveling in Milwaukee, watching the freeze creep into your Atlanta garden tonight, tracking fire conditions in Los Angeles, or waiting for floodwaters to recede in Hawaii, your account is the one I actually want to read. And if there's a specific city or region you want me to break down more deeply in tomorrow's update, just name it below. I'll work it straight into the forecast because this pattern has a whole lot more to say before March is done with us. Here's where my attention is sitting for the rest of this week. Both models are independently signaling a major pattern shift around March 25th to 27th. And the ingredients for significant severe weather plus late season snow are starting to stack up in a way that's hard to ignore. If this system develops the way the early model guidance is pointing, and the consistency across multiple runs is the part that has me paying attention, the area from the Ohio Valley through the Mid-Atlantic and potentially into the Northeast could be looking at the most impactful weather event of the second half of March. I'll have the full breakdown every single day as confidence builds, the track, the timing, who's in the zone and who isn't. And I genuinely need you to see those updates when they drop, not 2 days later when there's nothing left to do about it. Hit subscribe and flip on the bell notification, because when that March 25th picture starts to sharpen, the update I post is going to matter. And you don't want to be the one finding out about it from somebody else's screenshot 3 days after the fact. Stay safe out there today. Look out for your neighbors, especially anybody still sitting in the dark and the cold. And I'll see you tomorrow morning with the latest on everything we've been tracking together.